We are Cactus Wrestling. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.
Cactus Wrestling is now available on Spotify and Amazon. And don't forget to check us out on Etsy for all of your Cactus Wrestling apparel needs. Welcome back to Cactus Wrestling, otherwise known as the Mike and the Jack Show. But just tonight, it's just Mike and Jack.
You got it,
Anyway,
man.
who's number one? That's the question on everyone's mind because that's going to be answered this Sunday as we see some of the top high school wrestlers in the country square off. We have some big matchups and some rematches, and we'll get into that as we go through. So just looking at the boys list, starting at the top, and we'll save the headliner towards the end. Jaden James of New Jersey and Colin Cash of Pennsylvania. Now, funny enough, these two are both Virginia Tech
Oh yeah.
commits. So like going into this, like I feel like you have to have that in the back of your mind. Like this is a guy that you could potentially be fighting for a starting spot in the lineup against.
For sure. I think the biggest thing going for them though, and why I'm not sure if they'll actually see each other in college or have to deal with each other is, you know, Jaden is a year younger. He's a 2026 commit. Colin's a 2025 commit. And Jaden's growth has been insane. I mean, he was a New Jersey state champ. He might have just been a state finalist at 138 this past, you know, this past season, and he was already 150 by Fargo, and now he's 150 again. I think he's going to outgrow Colin very quickly. I think they'll have separation in college, but yeah, for sure. You're like, oh, how does this? A coach is coming to recruit me. I'm already signed. How is this going to look if I lose, or how is this going to look if I win? Um, but this could be the only time we actually see them match up. I have a feeling they probably will separate in college as guys try to, but I'm super excited for this one.
And Colin Gash, so just to put some context, in the class of 2025 big board on Flow, Colin Gash is ranked number 32 and Jaden James is number 12.
Yeah,
So
he's
obviously
legit.
that can change because he's a year younger. But I think probably give the advantage to Jaden James here. Um, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
I would agree with that. I think that, watching how well Jaden did at Fargo, um, he was on fire. He was scoring points left and right. And with the 3-point takedown, I think that's going to be a huge thing for these guys. Um, One thing that, for guys that kind of follow history and maybe don't know all these names, Colin kind of burst on the scene when he made the finals against Mac Church, who was the guy in Pennsylvania a few years ago.
Isn't he
And
another Virginia Tech guy?
yeah, I think so too. And he so Colin beats ended up beating Mac Church in what was an upset in the finals of the Pennsylvania State Championship when he was a sophomore. So pretty exciting matchup between these guys. But the kicker of this is only part one, and we'll get to part two in a second.
Yeah, this is a preliminary.
Yeah.
Because this is number two and number three. By the way, Mac Church, yes, is Virginia Tech.
Oh
Hey,
yeah.
shout out Virginia Tech. They have five guys competing in this thing
Yeah.
out of what, 20? One, two,
Yeah.
three. Yeah. Um, all right. So, and drop a comment down below. Who do you think is going to win these matchups? 113, to be honest with you, I don't know too much about either of these guys. 113, I feel like younger guys, neither of them are committed just because they're young.
Mhm.
It makes sense 113. But you have the number one Dominic Munaretto from Illinois, number two Ignacio Villasenor from Oklahoma.
I have something that I wrote about Minaretto. I'm trying to find because all right. So Dominic Minaretto on August 25th became just the eighth American to win two medals at Cadet Worlds in freestyle. Um, Funny enough, he actually beat another American, Freddie Bachman Jr., who is Mr. Super 32, who was wrestling for Puerto Rico. Dom is a phenom, at least in freestyle. Uh, I don't, know how well Ignacio will do. He's a good wrestler in his own right. Recently was a U17 bronze medalist, but I am giving the edge to Dom here. I mean, He's a sophomore going to his junior year. He's already won Ironman titles, 2 world championships, Illinois state champion, and Ignacio was a Colorado state champ, which is great. Anytime you're a top guy in the state is awesome. But I'm really giving the edge here to Munaretto, and they actually have history. So they wrestled each other at Super 32s in 2022, a few years back when they were both freshmen, and Dom won 8-1. But it's not as easy as it sounds. It was a pretty tight match until Dom hit a big throw, feet to back, and got 5-point move right there. But I'm still leaning with Munaretto in this. He's right now number 6 in the class 2026, so he's pretty high up in those rankings, especially given that's a recruiting class that features guys like Bo Bassett, Jax Forrest. There's some really top heavy talent over there. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes.
Yeah, yeah. Let us know. Let us know what you think. 157, number 2, Melvin Miller of Bishop McCourt, Pennsylvania, against number 3, Landon Robidoux. Robidoux? Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
close enough.
I don't know it. Pronunciation. Melvin Miller. I mean, this guy is
Done it all.
I feel like he doesn't get talked about enough because he's so young. 16-year-old freshman, right? 16, something like that. 2-time state champ, Super 32 champ, Bishop McCourt, teammates with Bo Bassett and Jax Forrest. Phenom. And
Yeah.
Landon Robidoux recently flipped his commit. He's from Minnesota, was committed to Minnesota, now committed to Oklahoma State. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're a big Melvin Miller fan.
Yeah, I would say I love Melvin. So I think he's the most clutch wrestler out there right now. This is a guy that's come from behind wins at Super 32, come from behind wins through half his matches at the PA State Championship this past year, come from behind Fargo win. I mean, this guy is clutch. I was surprised he didn't do better at Cadet Worlds. He took 5th, which to me blew my mind because I've always seen him kind of find a way to win. So his kind of record and accolades speak for themselves. But no, not taking anything away from Landon. He's always one of the top guys. This is a name that has been on everyone's radar for years. Super 32 finalist, top 4 at U20s.
3-time Minnesota state champion too.
Yep, Fargo champion, top 4 at the World Team Trials. Beat a lot of ranked wrestlers in his path. What surprises me about this matchup is that it's a number 2 versus number 3, and there's a certain wrestler I was kind of hoping to see. Had a pretty exciting last few weeks, and I don't know if it's because of his schedule or he's a little burnt out, but I expected to see a Melvin Miller versus PJ Duke match here.
I think PJ, yeah. I mean, there's some we haven't talked about it, but like number 1 on the big board, Marcus Blaze is not wrestling. Number 2, PJ Duke's not wrestling. Number 6, Leo DeLuca. We saw him last year wrestle. He's not wrestling.
Will Henkel's not.
Will Henkel, Colin Rath. A lot of these guys, maybe it's just like one and done. PJ Duke, he's been injury prone. He just competed at U20s. So yeah, maybe he just.
And no, he just competed at Senior Worlds. He just took 3rd at the World Team Trials. But funny enough, PJ is not even registered at Super 32. So I think that he's kind of leaning towards look, what do I have to prove at this point?
He'll fit right in at Penn State where they wrestle 20 matches a year.
I mean, I think PJ's injury history is a big reason why he's sitting out. I can't speak for him. I imagine that he was invited and probably declined it. And we'll talk about other guys when we get into, the Jax Forrest, Seth Mendoza match. But I believe Marcus Blaze is probably on the same path. Look, I've had a really busy offseason and I'm just tired right now. And I would like a little bit of a break before the season actually starts.
For sure. Yeah.
But super exciting match though still. Melvin Miller versus Landon Robidoux. I'm going to go with Melvin Miller, Mr. Clutch himself. we'll see how it shakes out.
I'll go Robidoux just to make it interesting. How about that?
Yeah, gotta keep it interesting.
All right, number one, Nicholas Sahakian from California, Arizona State commit versus Jude Correa, New Hampshire. Look at that.
Well, not exactly, but yeah. So Jude Correa representing New England does it well, but I believe he's a Wyoming Seminary guy. Which, hey, if you can be there and you could be a starter, you could do some damage. Why not?
And he's committed to Michigan. He's number
Yeah.
one at 215. So two number ones going at it,
Mm,
but different weight classes. So I mean, this is a trend that we've been seeing at heavyweight, where we kind of have like the Nick Feldman type heavyweight, where it's a
yeah.
smaller, quicker type guy versus a bigger guy like Sahakian. Sahakian's number 20 on the big board, and Correa is actually number 11. So that's interesting. He wrestles at 220. So
Yeah.
you're right.
I've
He is
gotten
Wyoming Seminary.
yeah, I've gotten to watch Nick wrestle. He actually him and one of my heavyweights. They had a match at a Journeyman last year, and that was the first time I kind of saw him. Journeyman champ, uh, won Super 32 last season, finished runner up at U.S. Open for the U20 and the U20 World Team Trials. I mean, this has been a really good year. He's on that Valencia pipeline because he's a St. John Bosco guy, same as the Valencias. I believe he wrestles for their club team, and then Arizona State. So he's right on that trajectory with them. Obviously, Jude Correa is an incredible wrestler in his own right. He's been I think, a finalist or a third place at Prep Nationals. He's been a Powerade finalist, Ironman champion, Super 32 and NHSCA champion. I mean, if I remember correctly, he actually even beat Mike Mock, or Mike, oh, not Mike Mock, but Michael Mako, who had a
Mm.
heck of a year. I think Jude Correa beat him last year at Ironman. It might have been in the finals. It might have been in the semis. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure he beat Michael Mako. Um, the big thing that I worry about with this is how much the weight will play a factor because these are both top recruits, and you know a number one at 285 versus a number one at 215, it could be a huge difference. And Jude might be the better wrestler, but it might be too much weight for him to give up. So I'm looking forward to see how this goes down. Uh, it's going to be pretty interesting, though. I'm looking forward to this. But again, though, I was surprised that there was not a another 285 that was interested in stepping up, or another 215 that they kind of made this super match.
Well, I mean, I'd like to see two number ones. I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I just it. I think the weight disparaging, the weight difference at 285 to 215 is a little big.
Yeah,
If it was
but
like
I mean,
a
if Correa wants to be a starter at
yeah,
Michigan, he's probably gonna
yeah,
have to put on some size unless he wants to cut down. But anyway, Michigan will get a transfer that comes in, so
yeah. Well,
it
I mean,
won't
he's
matter
trying to
too
do
much.
trying to do the Mason Paris thing. I mean, Mason Paris was a 220, I believe, as a
Yeah.
senior.
Yeah, he was
Um,
a small heavyweight his first few
yeah, and
years.
look at how it worked out for him.
Yeah.
So who knows? Future's bright. But I would have loved to have seen Jude Correa versus a healthy Drayshawn Ross at 215. But
Mm.
Drayshawn got really banged up at Fargo. He ended up having to pull out of the Worlds. So hopefully he's healing up. But still looking forward to the match. Regardless, I'm gonna go with Jude Correa though if I have to pick.
I like it. I'm going with you.
Yep,
138, Sergio Vega, Arizona, Cornell commit versus Drew Gorman from Georgia, Virginia Tech commit. Now,
another
these
10.
two, I believe, wrestled at Fargo in the finals.
Yes.
And Vega won 10 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's freestyle, obviously.
Yeah.
So we were talking about some rematches here. Um, Obviously, Vega's ranked number one, Gorman's number two. On the big board, Drew Gorman is number 25 and Sergio Vega is number 12. Um, I think that Cornell has a bright future as well. There's going to be another guy that we talk about, Cornell commit as well. Um, they do it right. I think Vega's going to be a bright spot for them in the future. And I have Vega beating Gorman here.
I'm gonna agree with you there. I
Although
think,
Gorman, another Virginia Tech commit.
yeah, I was gonna say, it's awesome. They're doing a great job uh, getting these, really solid wrestlers. Virginia Tech has quietly been putting together a very solid program. Hopefully, these guys can all make the jump in college and keep improving. Um, but yeah, you said it best. Is that even though it's a 10-2 win, it is freestyle. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys kind of translate to, like, again, a folk style situation. Both of them have pretty good offenses, great counterattacks. Drew Gorman's kind of been the guy for a while. Sergio Vega, same thing. He's a big freestyle guy. I remember seeing Drew Gorman for Fargo, Super 32, NHSCA. And I feel like I always saw Vega leaning more towards, like, the freestyle route, where I'd see him in World Team Trials. But you have seen him at things like Super 32, and he actually had a pretty big win last year where he beat Ben Davino,
Mm.
um, which set up a Sergio Vega versus Bo Bassett, I believe it was, that they wrestled in the Super 32 finals last year.
Mm.
Um, which, hey, that's an impressive guy to wrestle against. But beating Ben Davino, who beat Marcus Blaze, not a bad guy to beat.
Mm-hmm.
I
True.
agree with you. I'm going with Sergio Vega here. Anytime you see an Arizona guy, you got to realize, like, they're not joking around. I feel like with RBY and some of the other talent that's come from there, while it might not be every Arizona kid's a stud, when you see a big national level guy, know that he is the real deal.
Yeah.
Love it for Drew Gorman to see Georgia on the radar as well. This is a program, a state that's really growing, and a lot of the guys unfortunately aren't staying in the state. They're going to private schools to wrestle, but it's good to see that they're growing talent.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Going up to 190, Harvey Ludington of New Jersey versus number 2, Cade Ziola of Nebraska. Harvey Ludington, Arizona State, another ASU commit, and Cade Ziola of Nebraska. Now, these two also wrestled in
Yep.
Fargo finals, and it was not close. Ludington smashed.
Yeah.
Hecked him in a minute.
And not even with, like, crazy amount of laces. He had multiple takedowns, step out points, and then he did have 2 laces as well. But this wasn't just, oh, I got lucky and I got a leg lace and I just rolled. He earned 4-6 quality points, by just being physical, getting actual takedowns. Um, but he also beat him last season. So the Elite Eight duels just finished up at the time of this recording. And last season, Ludington also beat him there. So he has a folk style win over him and a freestyle win over him. But can Cade Ziola make the adjustments that he needs?
I don't think so.
I also think it's going to be tough. If it was just a freestyle win, that's one thing. Ludington has a seriously tough schedule. He's won Fargo, won New Jersey State Championship, Beast of the East. He was undefeated at the Elite Eight duels, was on the podium at Super 32. And not that Ziola isn't a great wrestler. He's, I think he pinned his way through Iron Man last year, and that's one of the toughest tournaments around. It's just sometimes that little extra is a lot more than you realize. I think he's going to have a hard time closing the gap. I'm going Ludington,
I am
but
too.
I might say Ziola has a better college career.
Okay. That's fair. All right. Anthony Knox is going for history here. He's
Oh, yeah.
going for his wait, correct me if I'm wrong. Fourth
Fourth. Yeah.
who's number 1 title,
And
which is crazy. Yeah, who is he beating?
he's beaten some legit guys. So let me see if I can find the list because I had this earlier because I was just trying to go through the history as well. Okay, ready for this? Luke Lilladall, Christian
Who
Castillo
you think is going to
is going to
win the
win.
national
I do.
championship
I
at
do.
125 pounds
So they wrestled each
this
other. They're
season?
fresh. Anthony Knox wrestled him as a freshman when Luke was a sophomore. And I believe it was at 106. And How does he follow that up? Oh, he beats Christian Castillo, who's also a world team member, who's also a world placer. I believe was a world champion that year. And then he follows it up by destroying Leo DeLuca, who is another just phenom wrestler. I mean, Anthony Knox is Mr. Who's number one.
Do you think
And
if Anthony Knox wrestled Luke Lilladall today, he would win?
at 126,
Let's say Anthony Knox was Cornell's starter this season, and they wrestled against Penn State and wrestled Luke Lilladall. Who wins that match?
I'd probably go with Luke, just because I think that a lot of growth happened in the 3 years. Um, and Luke has got a really, it's tough to say because they really don't match up a ton. Um, I think Luke has had a really solid high school career, and I'm looking forward to see how he does at Penn State. But Anthony Knox has also done incredible. He gave Bo Bassett one of his first high school losses, where he beat him at Super 32 when Bo was an eighth grader and Anthony was a freshman. And that was the first time because Bo had already won a world championship, he'd already accomplished all these things, and then Anthony Knox came and was like, "Nah, man, like I'm the truth." And that's when he first appeared on my radar. Then I watched him win. So every year he wins a state championship in Jersey, he counts them down. So he starts and he goes like he counts down all the years that he's won.
Nice.
Just a savage. Uh, One thing I liked about Anthony Knox, and Flo actually talked about this, is for coaches that are looking to recruit, he committed to the first person that got in touch with him.
Yeah. Sure.
And they did a little like thing, a build up to when he was getting recruited. And when 12 o'clock came, midnight came, they kind of were like, oh, they thought his phone would blow up, and it didn't happen like that. And when the first college that first contacted him was Cornell, and sure enough, he wins Super 32, gets the shirt thrown to him, puts it on. He's like, I'm committed. And he's like, I'm Cornell. I'm going. Which is great. I love seeing his life, getting to hear about his behind the scenes with his family was awesome as well, because sometimes when you like a wrestler and then you kind of see their home life or the way they act when they're not on the mat, you're like, oh, he's actually a jerk, or he's, a really great person. It's awesome to see. That being said, Aaron Seidel is looking really great. Heck of a run at Fargo. 6 techs through 7 matches. Outscored his opponent 70-4. 10-0 tech in the first period in the finals. Both have great freestyle credentials, but both are great folk style guys as well. Both of them are Super 32 champs last year. Both of them are on pace to be 4-time state champions. One for PA would be Seidel. One for New Jersey would be Knox. And what's great about this is I could theoretically see them continuing to grow at the same rate, and this could be a matchup we see in college. So Anthony Knox is number 4 recruit of 2025, and Seidel is number 7 of 2025, and another Virginia Tech commit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
love to see it. I'm picking Knox. Knox is gonna win his 4th.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Knox as well. One thing though that people seem to struggle with is everyone thinks it's the first state championship, first Super 32, first national title, first who's number 1, world title, whatever it is. They think the first one's the hardest. It's the second. It's the third. It's the fourth. Because there's a target on your back.
Guys are hungry, yeah.
Yep. It's not easy to do the first time, but it's, in my opinion, much harder to do it again and again and again.
Yeah, plus you like subconsciously you're
like,
not as like motivated.
Yeah. And so I'm picking Knox. I could see the doomsday situation where Seidel pulls it off, but I really think Anthony Knox is a calm, cool, collected enough wrestler that he can get this done. And make history.
Yeah. I agree. That's one of the matches I'm most hyped to watch. I like watching Anthony Knox wrestle. Great pickup for Cornell.
Yeah.
All right. So 132. Now we talked about Marcus Blaze. He's not 132, right?
Yeah, he is. He's the number 1 at 132.
Oh, he's number 1. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's funny seeing Jax Forrest on the list being number 2, but
yeah, right.
Jax Forrest number 2, Seth Mendoza number 3. Jack's Force just released a list of his top 10
Mhm.
schools in somewhat similar fashion to Bo Bassett, who's down to 17. It seems
I'm getting
like
there.
Jax is being a little bit more direct. He had like a map, and
Yeah,
I don't know. I like it. I kind of like
I I'm enjoying
seeing.
the whole process.
Yeah, like you get to see like, oh, here are the contenders. Here's their thought process, especially kids looking up to them.
Mhm.
Um, so I enjoy it. It's kind of like in college football when they have like the three hats and they're like, all right, which one
Yeah.
am I gonna go to? Anyway, Seth Mendoza, Jack Sports. Now these two have also traded matches. They have
Yeah.
some freestyle and folk style matches where, funny enough, they actually both teched each other in freestyle, which is why I hate freestyle. It means
Yep.
nothing. It literally means nothing. All that means is that you could have got leg laced. That's it. Um, so they've traded matches techs in freestyle, but they did wrestle in folk style uh last December, I
December.
believe.
Yeah.
And
It
it
was
was
at the
8-5.
yeah. It was a super competitive match. So as you've hit on before, I do like the Bishop McCourt guys. I follow their schedule, and I was a little surprised to see them go to the Carnahan Memorial Invitational, which was the December tournament that they hit. Just because I didn't know much about it at the time. But yeah, Jax wrestled Seth Mendoza to a 8-5 victory. It was a crazy scrambly match, which you always see with Jax. And it's really the only folk style match that they've had so far that we could kind of base that off of because as you talked about, Seth had a 12 win tech over Jax, and then Jax teched him back 29 seconds in Fargo. So freestyle, it's kind of a moot point. I'm not as excited for this match as I thought I would be because I was really expecting Jax Forrest versus Marcus Blaze. And we've kind of seen how that match goes, but I always look forward to seeing it. I think it's going to be cool because this match has two guys that really let it fly. Jax is wide open. He's unconventional. He's always kitchen sink kind of guy. You always see him. You're like, how did he do that? What is that move? He just kind of makes stuff up as he goes, but it works. And Seth Mendoza is kind of the same way. He's super relentless pace, high volume shooter. This is going to be very interesting to see how their styles match up in another folk style match. But obviously, I'm going to go with Jax for this.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to pick Jax. Jax is the number one on the big board for
Yeah.
class of 2026. Seth Mendoza commit to Missouri. So nice to see Missouri has a top 25. I believe he's number 24 on the class of 2025. Do you think Flo has Jax Forrest number one, Bo Bassett number two? Do you think that's accurate? Would you rank them that way?
I've given this some thought, and it is tough. Um, Jax has beaten some all Americans in the college tournaments that he's entered, and Bo's beaten some really good guys, but they weren't all American, but he hasn't lost to anybody in that level either. Uh, so how much do you base it off of? So Bo has made a world team, and he's been a world medalist multiple times. Jax made a world team and was a world finalist once. Um, so again, what do you base it off of? Jax has had in-season losses and postseason losses. I mean, he didn't even he lost at the regionals last year, and then he went on to tech the guy 16-0 when they wrestled again in the state finals. But I can't remember the last time Bo had lost to a high schooler. So in my mind, there's reason for both of them to be one, both of them to be two. I'm going to go with Jax one for now because he has made two senior level world teams, taking fourth at 57 kilo and I believe third, maybe fourth at 61 kilos, which Bo hasn't done. And Jax was an Olympic qualifier, which while he
Yeah,
didn't make a
that's
U20
fair.
team, yeah, did make a U20 team because of Luke Liddell,
That's
still
fair.
was able to finish really high. So I think no matter where they go, they're going to be great.
Yeah,
I
not that it
don't.
really matters,
Yeah, I
but
was just. Yeah, I think Jax 1, Bo 2 is fine for now. We'll just see how they do at open tournaments this year because I'm sure these two guys are going to look for some D1 events to enter.
All right. Last three matches here. Maddox Shaw, number one, Pennsylvania, Ohio State commit. And who will get the winner of Jaden James and Colin Gash? So I think we both were saying James to win.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
Maddox
sir.
Shaw versus Jaden James,
Maddox
potentially.
Shaw's a dog. I mean, he's a tough wrestler. This is a great matchup. I think Maddox Shaw, Jaden James is going to be who it is. Um, Especially because Maddox Shaw has beaten Landon Robideau recently. Well, not last year Super 32. He beat him. But actually, I think he beat him twice last year. I think he beat him at Super 32 and Pennsylvania State Finals. So I'm not looking for if it is Colin Gage over Jaden James, I'm going to pick Maddox Shaw. Maddox Shaw versus Jaden James. I don't know how that would go though. I'm going to go with Maddox Shaw just because I've kind of seen his body of work. And, anytime that you're coming up all that weight like Jaden James is, despite growing, it's still not easy. And granted, he had great freestyle success, but as we've talked about, freestyle and folk style, not the same beast.
No, not at all. I'm also going Maddox Shaw here to win this one. Maddox Shaw, number 14 on the big board for class of 2025.
Right.
All right, last two weight classes here. Ladarian Lockett, D. Lockett, Oklahoma boy versus Ryan Burton, New Jersey. Hello, Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Number one versus number one. Ryan Burton is a big boy, but D.
Yes.
Lockett, um, he has been crushing it on the freestyle scene. This
He's
is
been
gonna be
crushing
a
it. Everything.
good. This is gonna be a good match. Oklahoma State for D. Lockett.
The best thing of this is like I don't think Lockett plans to stay 175. I think he just is doing this for the matchup. Because he just wrestled 74 kilos and that was 163, and can't imagine he's gained all that weight. I
Right.
think he just wants the tough matchup. Um,
Yeah, I love that.
but man, what a run he's had. I feel like a lot of people talk about D Lockett, but maybe not as much as they should. It's a guy that's a multiple time world finalist. He was a U17 world champion, U20 world finalist this past season, and a lost in criteria in a heck of a match. Multiple time Super 32 champion, US Open champion. Um, he's kind of done it all. I mean, he even last year he teched, not last year, this past Olympic trials, he teched Meyer Shapiro, who, could be hurt, and we know that that was a possibility, but he won 12-1 over him, and that's a certified stud. On the other hand, Ryan Burton, Super 32 champ, Beast of the East, Escape the Rock, New Jersey State champion, just a folk style animal. And then he goes to a really tough bracket in Fargo where he ends up just, beating up Will Henkel, who is number 2 at 175. So I thought we were going to see a 165 matchup with Lockett versus someone else, and then Ryan Burton versus Henkel for the rematch in a folk style. But I'm really looking forward to this match specifically. I think this is going to be a great matchup. I think D Lockett is what David Taylor is kind of building around when he gets there, because I I actually thought he was a year older than he was. I was not sure that he was still in high school at the time that the matches were coming out. I thought he was going to college. So the fact that he's still around is very impressive. I got D Lockett winning, and I'm not sure it's going to be close.
Wow. Yeah, I also have D Lockett winning. It's going to be interesting because he is bumping up that weight class. He's the
Yeah.
number three on the big board, only behind Marcus Blaze and PJ Duke, but ahead of the likes of Anthony Knox and this fellow, Daniel Zepeda, which we have to talk about in this last matchup. The rematch, the headliner, Bo Bassett versus Daniel Zepeda. Who's number one? Now, we saw the same exact matchup last year where Bo went up a weight class and Zepeda pinned him. I think with Bo,
Tech pinned him.
yeah, tech pinned him.
Yeah.
But I will say Bo's pace was just relentless. I mean, he's known for that.
Yeah,
Even in that matchup, I think now that he's got a little bit more size, it's going to be a whole different story because he was just clearly outsized last year. It
yeah.
was like, oh, and people in the comments were like,
Oh yeah, a lot of
don't,
commenters about
don't,
this one.
don't hate on California, bro. Like,
Yeah, don't
California #1, bro. Like, Zapita, all
now you
right.
realize, yeah, there was a lot of trash talk coming from California wrestlers, and hey, maybe rightfully so. But for the guys that actually followed this, Bo weighed in last year. I think it was at 138, and it was 24-hour weigh-in, so they got to weigh in a day in advance. Bo weighed in with his clothes and his shoes on and was still like 135. Zapata was cutting down to make 138 and then rested half the season last year at like 150. Um, so there was a huge size advantage. And as Jack talked about, Bo, physical movement, the same Bo Bass that we typically saw, but a lot of times was doing more harm than good. I mean, he was snapping Zapata right into his legs. He
Yeah.
was moving. He was putting himself in compromised positions that he could wrestle out of with smaller guys, but going up all that weight was a huge challenge for Bo. And I know he was looking forward to giving Zapata the golden ticket, as they call it. So I'm really excited for this. I don't necessarily think it'll be a good match, though. I think that they both learned it from. I think sometimes you see a match where two guys are very cautious the first time and then let it fly the second time. I almost feel like this is going to be reversed, where they kind of know, you know, how the guy's going to wrestle. So I feel like we'll see a Bo.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I
So
I kind of disagree. I feel like Bo's kind of like a Mitchell Messenbrink where he's just gonna come at you regardless. He doesn't care.
it's totally possible. I think that we're going to see Zapata maybe ease off a little bit and try to control some things. Um,
From what I remember
yeah,
of that match, he wasn't the
yeah, he
aggressor.
wasn't the
He was just
aggressor. It
kind of
was
like
yeah,
pancaking him and outsizing
yeah,
him, and that was pretty much it.
yeah. Um, I don't know. Bo's done a lot since they last wrestled. Super 32, Ironman, Powerade, U.S. Open, U20 World Team,
And like
Pan
you
Am
said, like
Champion,
when's the last time he lost to a high schooler?
Zapata,
Yeah. But
and
at his own weight, I mean, like, come on.
yeah, and that's the thing. Um, you know, the only match that I can say that they've had that's similar that I can use as a comparison right now is their matchup with Pearson Manville. So the first time Zapata lost to him, I think it was 10-8, and he was making a big comeback. And then Zapata beat him at Fargo this year 3-1, which is Pearson Manville's a very tough wrestler, but Bo also wrestled against Manville, and he teched him, and it wasn't through turns; it was through his offense. It was taking him down. Um, so because of that, I'm gonna go just like I did with last year. I'm gonna go with Bo Bassett over Daniel Zapata. Um,
I'm right there with you.
I'm
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 right
interested
there
to
with
see how it goes, but now that they're both at a much more even weight, I mean, I've seen Bo wrestle and beat Anthony Ashnault, who, no offense to Zapata, is probably bigger and stronger than him.
for sure.
And so if Bo can do that to someone like Ashnault, and if I could see Bo go with these top level Division 1 guys, I think he's had this match circled in red ever since it ended. And I'm expecting a very different outcome this time. That being said, if Zapata beats Bo twice in a row, get this guy to the highest of the sport, because my respect for him will triple, quadruple. Like
Yeah,
it'll be infinite.
he's
It'll be
the
like what? Yeah, it'll be wow. Like it wasn't a fluke. Like it's legit. He's just that good.
he's the sole NC State commit
Yeah,
competing here. Um if you gut reaction, where's Bo Bassett committing to college?
Iowa.
Was that serious or is that a joke?
That's serious. I've been
Really?
saying I think Penn State is going to miss out on Bo and Jax.
I think, well,
I
so
think
Jax has them in the top 10.
I think
They
Jack's going to
both
OP
had their
State.
official visit to Michigan. That was their first one. I think my gut's still Bo Bassett to Rutgers.
I don't see it. I think that I think Jax to Okie State and I think Bo to Iowa. Although Bo did
I
make a
agree,
point,
Jax to Okie State, but I
yeah,
think Bo Bassett Rutgers.
I could see. It's funny because like Rutgers isn't a bad program, but it's also not like the program you would expect for someone like Bo.
But that's
But
exactly why
well,
he
yeah, and
would pick
that's
there.
exactly because he talked about he's like I want to build such a a legacy, and not that it's hard to do it a place like Penn State or Iowa or Michigan or Oklahoma State. It's just not as easy. I mean, they get top recruits all the time and they get great wrestlers all the time. And you just be like, cool, like I'm on the wall with all these other guys that did well. But if he goes to Rutgers, he could do like, I mean, I remember Suriano National, the first ever national champions they had there. Bo could say, hey, I want to be the first ever 2-time, 3-time, 4-time national
Yeah.
champion, whatever it is. Um, it'll be interesting. I think he's going to go to Iowa. I think Bo goes Iowa. I think Jax goes Oklahoma State, and I think Marcus Blaze might be a Nittany Lion.
Really? You don't think he joins his brother at Purdue?
I don't think he goes to Purdue. I think that Purdue has kind of lost the sweepstakes at this point because he's doing so well and bigger schools with more
Well, he's
NIL
from
money.
Ohio. What about Ohio State?
Possible for very very possible, and I think Ohio State's a possibility for Bo as well because he's a Rudis sponsored athlete.
Hmm.
So I mean, looking forward to seeing it. I'm hoping. I've been following their recruiting trails a lot. I was kind of hoping that we'd see a Super 32 announcement from them, just like Anthony Knox, where it's like, okay, I'm going to and they throw out a shirt and he puts it on and goes, oh my gosh, he's going to Pitt Johnston or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've been
Pitt
following,
Johnson's still in the mix,
still in the
although
list.
Pitt is gone.
Yeah, they cut him, but Pitt Johnston's still there.
Um, yeah, yeah, it'll be interesting. Um,
Before we go, I do want to give. We haven't done this in a while. I wanted to give a shout out though. So
yes.
my wife's younger cousin Christopher watches all of our videos, and I'm very appreciative of that. So I wanted to give him a shout out. So if you do see this one, appreciate all the support and hope you keep watching, brother.
All right, Christopher. Woo. Well, there you go. Who's number one preview here on Cactus Wrestling? Drop a comment down below. Who do you think will win all of these matchups for the men's division? Let us know in the comment down below. And as always, thanks for watching Cactus Wrestling.
Thanks for watching. We are Cactus Wrestling, and we'll see you next time on our next video.